But after that hearing, I kept thinking about it, and I started to ask myself some questions. Like, what does family rejection look like in the context of youth homelessness? We're talking about minor children.
Yeah.
And it occurs to me that there's really only two situations that we could possibly be talking about here. One is mom and dad kick the kid out of the house,
Yeah.
making no arrangement for their alternative care.
Safety. Yeah.
We would call that criminal child negligence. And we would deal with that both through the criminal justice
Yeah.
system and through the child protective services system. And that would not result in a child being homeless. That's not what we consider a acceptable resolution to a case. Oh, the kid's
Yeah.
homeless now, right? So obviously we're not talking about that. So what's the other situation we could possibly be talking about? Runaways. Kid doesn't like it at home. Kid doesn't get along with mom and dad. So kid decides to leave. Well, if that's the case, then what you're saying is we want to construct a place for runaways to go where they're going to receive who knows what services. And in a context where last year we passed the PRO Act, we passed the trans refugee bill, also authored by Finke, all of which went out of their way to ensure that parents don't have anything to do with the decisions that their children are making in this particular space of gender affirming care. And so in that context, you're talking no requirement for parental notification. We already know, based on the laws they passed last year, that there's no requirement for parental consent in order to receive gender affirming care. I met with a bunch of mothers yesterday at my office who are all mothers of gender dysphoric children who are undergoing transition against the will of those mothers. Okay? So this is happening where parents are discovering that their child has been effectively, in my view, groomed into making a life-altering decision by other non-custodial adults without the knowledge or consent of the parents. And the way I read it, this bill is creating a center for that.
Well, and again, it goes down, I guess, if I'm just want to be Al, you darn conservative guy.
Yeah.
What are the numbers? Or, I mean, is it $1 million to give to what this outfit he wants to create this place? And then how many will it affect? Do we have a number? Has anybody studied it? Or is it just this? I guess I've been around. I don't see a lot of under 18-year-old LGBT community members living under bridges. I might be missing it. I'm not driving in the right neighborhoods. How many does it affect? And then I go back to what difference does it make? If the child is homeless because he doesn't get along with mom and dad, not wanting him to smoke cigarettes, doesn't want him on the marijuana. We argued I left the house. How is that any different than they don't like me because I'm gay? You know what I'm saying? I guess the reason you're homeless doesn't seem to be as all-inspiring as who you are in this case. Why isn't homelessness the problem if that's the real problem? Let's fix it. I'm not opposed to fixing it. It just seems we're only fixing it for those we like. How about little Johnny, the white guy who just as mad as hell at his parents because he won't let him smoke marijuana? He's homeless, but he doesn't have a shelter.
Well, it very much appears to me, and again, this is an appropriation. It was $200,000 in the original bill. I'm not sure where it's landed now, but this is to conduct that study, right? To perform the needs analysis.
Okay.
And the case that you're making, what I would say, and based upon the things that Finke has said publicly and that other representatives in support of this bill have said publicly, and just what we know they've passed, Finke talks about the fact that we're a trans refuge state and that we're attracting trans people, trans families, trans kids to the state of Minnesota as a result from the surrounding region of the country. And so it's the way I read this is they are encouraging, they want kids to separate from their families so that they can come transition, so that they can come engage with these gender affirming care services without the knowledge or consent of their parents. Certainly, there's nothing in the laws that they are drafting that prevents that or that makes sure that parents are involved or that makes any effort whatsoever to reunite or reconnect children with their parents, with their families. And in fact, in the conversations that I've had about this bill, private conversations in the hallway with folks on the other side, there seems to be this built-in assumption that if a child runs away from home, if a trans kid, as they describe them, runs away from home, it's because they're being abused. Like there's no other possibility.
Gotcha.
And this betrays their fundamental underlying belief. Their underlying belief is that if you don't immediately affirm your child's declaration that they are something other than what they physically are, that is inherently abusive. And it's so abusive that it justifies the termination of your parental rights. I mean, that is explicitly in the trans refugee bill, that we're going to cancel the rights of parents from other states if their kid makes it across the state line.